What's up, babe?
And everybody else.
There you go. Kind of caught you off guard on that one. She's actually doing her nails. So what we are going to do today, so first of all, welcome back to the Founder Academy. I have my Vancouver Canucks thing here. And we are going to jump into a whole bunch of pack opening. We did a bunch of the team of the season stuff, which we'll get to because I think there's an error going on. And we did a FUT Champs run. So before we get into all that, if you guys could drop a little like down below on the video. And if you're not subscribed already, welcome to the channel and hit that subscribe button. Everyone who's subscribing to the channel is greatly appreciated. Welcome around here. And we've had some really good feedback from some of the channel viewers and appreciate everybody's support. So what you guys are seeing here is just us kind of catching up. It's been SBC like mayhem going on because there's so many guaranteed packs that are coming out and nobody's really packing anything, so you're getting a lot of fodder and they're just dumping them back in SBC. So we did the Di Maria one essentially for free. Then we did the Osimhen objective, and what you guys are seeing here, was this an objective? Sorry, no, this was an SBC. So we did the Di Maria SBC, then we did the Osimhen SBC. I also threw in, babe's done with that one. She's probably gonna go watch some videos there, so I'm distracting her. So we are doing the SBCs for Osimhen, Di Maria, and then you can see that they released Ultimate Tots, so we actually ended up packing a duplicate Trent Alexander-Arnold, a tradable version, a duplicate Maignan, and a duplicate Marquinhos, which was really nice. The other ones I'm less concerned with because they're not really worth anything, but the Marquinhos actually was nice because both of them were tradable, so we have two tradable ones. We were able to sell one. It was going to fund some players that we're going to pick up later in the video, which you guys will see, but that gave us a huge influx of coins. Then we did the Cesc Fabregas objective. So the Fabregas objective, I'm not super concerned with. It was just an emotional card. Like he's not going to go into any online gameplay. I was actually expecting this card to be a little bit better. I know that's crazy because if you look at his stats, they're actually not too bad. Excuse me. But compared to like some of the players that are out right now, like he's nowhere near usable. He's not fast enough. He doesn't have like good enough shooting to be an offensive player. He doesn't have good enough defending to be a defensive player. You can throw a shadow on him and try using him. You can probably put him into a team. I'm not saying like he's completely unusable, but like look at some of the teams we're coming up against. Like I wouldn't recommend using him versus using some of these other cards. So this is our FUT Champs qualifiers run. The qualifiers run, usually we roll through them pretty easy. They're not like super complicated games to play, but now with like everyone having like super high rated teams, like these games are actually super sweaty. So there's no real easy opponents. I've edited the gameplay now, I think, just because one, it's easier for me to edit, and then two, I don't know if you guys like the super detailed games that we're showing when we show like just chances, but I've really just cut it into like the goals, so you guys are really just seeing the goals and then the result. This first opponent we came up against, huge mistake on my part. Normally I'm pretty good at walking it out of trouble like that because I like to just hold possession. I don't like to rush it out, but unfortunately we kind of really stupid mistake on my part trying to walk that out. Turned back in the defender with Puskas. He intercepts and then just sweats it across for 1-0, and then Messi ends up scoring, making it 2-1. Again, this guy I wasn't super concerned with. I knew we were going to pull it back, but it was a closer game score-wise than you'd expect. But the game, and I'm trying to be honest, like I'm not trying to be rude to my opponents or anything, but I wasn't really ever worried about losing this game. This guy was an okay player, but he wasn't fantastic. Like I said, decent player. It took us a little bit to grind out that third goal, but we got that sweat on. And once we got up 3-1, I was less concerned. We were really just kind of playing through the motions. He was a good enough defender that we didn't like pump him or anything like that. But the second half was more of a formality than anything. Nobody scored, and next thing you know, we're up 3-1. The game's done. Finish it off. He just kind of gave up with about 5 minutes to go, so we just kind of stood there and then just dumped the ball out of bounds. Which happens in qualifying, so I don't really mind. I encourage people to play through a whole game. A lot of people rage quit, like a ton of people rage quit now in FIFA. You're either like gonna sweat it out and be like a sweat monster like me, or you're just going to like get frustrated when someone scores and you just like dump the ball out of bounds. Second game we came up against this guy, Egg Boy. This was an interesting team. This guy clearly loves himself Prime Icon Moment SBC. He doesn't look like he's packed anybody too great, but he had some cool reds in there. He had Zaha, but like, yeah, his icon moments, he had like Pirlo, he had Nedved, Blanc. I can't remember who the right back was. Carlos Alberto, I believe it was. Yeah, this guy was an interesting opponent. He was actually quite good in terms of, being like, I don't know how you put it. He was a very typical FUT Champs opponent, right? Like, a decent defender. It took us 12 minutes. We ended up scoring near post with Messi. Messi, I am so glad we didn't end up selling him. I know I thought about that. I know this, like the Dybala, I'm really interested in wanting to get. I would love to get Dybala, but I just couldn't bring myself to get rid of Messi. Anybody that says they don't like Messi, I just don't understand how they can say that. This card, and I'm assuming the team of the season is pretty much a duplicate of this, even though he's got slightly lower stats, is just such a good card. Like, I don't know how you could say that. I don't know how people can think that he's not a good one, or he's usable or good or whatever. Like, he's just probably doesn't fit your playing style. But for me as a left stick dribbler, like, I really like to dangle. He is just a dream, right? He's the best dribbler in the game, period. I don't care what anyone says about anybody else. You could be 99-99 across the board for dribbling, but like, I know his stats are really high dribbling, but you could have completely maxed out dribbling stats and be any other card in the game. I don't think you're going to be as good as Messi. Messi's just so good, and he's got all those key traits, like the outside of the foot shot. He's got like those finesse shots. Like, it's just got all the goal scoring traits that I need in a cam. Like, he's just perfectly situated. The only thing is he's not super strong, so it's not like he's going to go out and body anybody, but he's so elusive that it's not like he's going to be an issue for you to use if you can use your left stick dribbling. So I highly recommend picking him up. He's still super cheap. He's cheap, like, relatively, right? So we're talking about at this stage in FIFA, when I say cheap, we're still talking 2 million coins, but I mean, the team of the season continues to drop. It's like 1.7 or something. And he's probably just going to drop more and more and more, but he's just so good. I highly recommend trying him out if you've been thinking about it. Like, he's just the best player that we've had all year. I'm going to try to just keep him all year round. I'm hoping that we don't pack a duplicate untradeable version at some point, because it's going to reset all his stats. Even at that point, depending on who we have in the club or what I want to pick up, I might even just keep this version, even if we got a duplicate. Just because this guy's got so many games on him. I would really like to get him to 1,000 goals. I've never had a single card in FIFA ever get to 1,000 goals because we've changed our team so much. I'm also not the type of guy who plays like 1,000 games a year. I end up playing usually between 400 to 500 games roughly per year, so we never get anywhere close to that. And I like mixing up my teams enough that that's, something that we definitely end up kind of coming short on. I think we've gotten to a couple hundred, but Messi's at something like 700 goals or something like that. So if we can get to 1,000, I think that would be a really cool accomplishment at this stage in FIFA. We just haven't ever done that before. Then we come up against this game. So the first 3 games that we came up, or that we played, we won. All 3 of them. Good players, nothing fantastic, but you had to grind out the games. This game, now, I know what people are going to think, oh, he's just making up excuses or whatever. This game was very different. This game, I felt like the team just fell apart. I don't know why. I left this clip in just to kind of show, like, we haven't created that video for like what morale looks like and how it affects your players, but one of the things that is going to be very prevalent is called displacement. It's when you go into a tackle and the players kind of stumble, but they knock the player into a disadvantageous position. That was happening a ton in this game. So not locking into tackles and displacement are 2 ways that FIFA, it's like death by 1,000 cuts, which I've said before. It's a whole bunch of little things that lead to counterattacks and goals. So as you guys can see here, like, I won't sit there dissecting that clip, but small little things, you'll miss a pass, your players won't show, they won't lock into a tackle, the guy will come down and he'll score. And those can be the differences between you winning or losing. So we're down 2-0, and then I got a kickoff, right? That was pure kickoff. His players just didn't lock in. I was able to evade the one player he was controlling, and as soon as I was through, we got lucky by scoring. Lucky to a certain degree, but look, there was kickoff cheese in that. Here's another perfect example. Like, the players are just breaking away, so it opens up all this space. Next thing you know, he gets a corner, and off the corner walks in. He's trying to go for that finesse shot, the green time finesse shot, but like a poorly placed pass, but it was intercepted radically. But look at all the magnet ball, right? The ball's just bouncing back to him. I can't lock into any tackles here. My players are wildly swinging. They're just all around. Nice move by him, but none of my players were locking in. They're just doing this. They're interweaving, and next thing you know, he's up 3-1, right? So small little things. Death by 1,000 cuts, right? 3-1. So we need to get back in this game. I don't think we went ultra attacking here, but I'm trying to hit him off another kickoff here, but my players just are like shooting offside. Again, another element to your players getting DDA'd or whatever you want to call it. they'll just fly into offside positions. There's another example. Like, they will just shoot really quickly in offside positions. There's no awareness. Here's just another example. Players just kind of not locking in. They're there, they're moving, they're running, but as you can see, they're swinging wildly, and they just won't lock into tackles. Like, watch how easy these passes are. Just one cutback, pass, inside pass, inside pass, inside pass. Now, people will watch that and they'll say, like, that's a really good play by him. You're just mad that you got scored again. But if you watch those moves that he was making, when you're playing and your team's on, like, they're not getting DDA'd or not getting morale, your players will lock in. So if the guy makes a cut, your defender will run in and they'll punish them for it. In that case, he literally was walking and he just made a really lazy, obvious cut, but he just stepped back and my players just didn't react. They swung and then they're chasing. They're doing a bunch of extra animations and you can't lock in. So his passes were very easy to read. They were very predictable, but it's moving the computer AI out of position, so they're just barely behind. And next thing you know, I'm down 5-1. Right? Like, and again, this is not a knock against this guy. It's just I couldn't have done anything to get into this game. I would have had to have been very flawless. I would have had to have been a pro player to really beat this guy because the game was just, it was causing me so many issues. So we had to go ultra attacking, which I hate to do, but you have to break them out of this slumber and I have to force them to basically create turnovers. The challenge with this is that if you're playing a really good player, and again, no offense to this guy, but if I'm playing a really good player, he's hitting me on counters. I think he hit me on the one counter, which made it 5-1, but I've played against guys where these games turn into 8-1 because as soon as you go ultra attacking, it does what I call box-to-box division and just essentially splits it. So all of your attackers, you got about 6 attackers, he's got 6 defenders, and it's just like bouncing around the top of the box. And then he'll launch it downfield, and now you've got a 4-on-4, which will be like 4 players. And if he's good enough, he'll basically make that pass, cut inside, and then shoot into space, and your players will go flying past him, and he'll hit you on a bunch of counters. So anyway, point being, we were so far down by 5-1 that we couldn't get back into that game. Not a knock against him, credit for him for winning. But that's just a perfect example of one of those games where I couldn't even tell you why that happened. As soon as that game started, we just got like DDA'd really badly. Like our team was just not locking in. They were getting displaced. They were bouncing. As soon as I would get the ball, if I did a fake shot, it'd be very lumbersome. And then you can tell when you do a move and they take a little while to get going, they just kind of like feel like they're stuck in sand and they can't accelerate. That was happening a bunch. But the displacement, that's the one that really kills me. Displacement is really frustrating to deal with. It separates the players a lot because you'll go into a tackle and your player will stumble and get knocked into a disadvantageous position and your opponent's away. So by the time your player kind of gets out of that animation, he's already behind the play and he has to try to catch up. It's so frustrating, and it's one of the little things that EA do to just kind of screw you over. I don't understand why it's in there. I understand that they need certain animations, but the fact that it's so random. Like, that was a game that I couldn't even tell you why that was happening. Like, we hadn't lost any games. We just came up against opponent, but it was just, it felt like my sliders were so dropped that I just was so far behind the 8 ball that we were down 5-1 by the time I was even able to get my players out of that slumber. It was really crazy. This next game was a perfect example of morale. We went into this game, and again, I'm not trying to insult this guy, but this guy was probably the weakest opponent we played the entire day. He was not very good. He was very easy to read, and I apologize, that middle part, my recording, every once in a while it'll just kind of cut out, so it cut out in the middle of that, so we actually missed those 2 middle goals. But I think he went up 2-0, and then we had to claw it back. Yeah, I believe he went up 2-0, or it might have been 2-1. But I know it was 2-1, and then we ended up scoring. But he was just not a really good player. But I had to force my team into ultra attacking, and he just couldn't handle it because he was just, you could tell that he must have been a lower division player. And this was the goal that we scored. I knew that if I just sent a wild through ball there, which essentially I did. Normally I wouldn't play this pass with Mbappe, but I knew I just needed to just send it in behind because he was going to be so aggressive with his defender. Luka Modric just ran. I didn't even think about it. Normally I wouldn't want to shoot with Luka Modric's left, but I knew the game was so broken at that stage, we just hit shoot. This was the goal that made it, I think, 2-0 for him. As you guys can see here, I had my defender there. I wanted to make that pass. He ran away, so his attacker came running on. But watch Marquinhos, right? The ball's here, and Marquinhos will turn away, and then he'll have to turn back. And he doesn't even put in a foot. He doesn't try to make it. He's there, but his brain is turned off, right? So that's the type of stuff that happens with morale. Here, the pass through, look at how wide open it is. If you watch the animations that David Alaba does, it was moving him in this kind of like he was kind of doing this. Like if you go back and watch that, he was doing kind of this, and he was doing dumb stuff. So it would allow the attacker, to run into that space. And then by the time that player is in an advantageous position, it gets the ball, and David Alaba's just a second too late with the block. That stuff happens with morale, right? It moves your players from an AI standpoint out of position or into position. It does a bunch of extra animations, so it moves him just slightly out of the way, so he'll just barely get there. Again, we won that game, but I had to fight the morale of my players in order to win that. If I was playing, again, not insulting this guy, but if I was playing a better opponent, he would have beaten my team because they were getting nerfed, right? They were getting nerfed the entire game. I just got lucky by sending a long through ball because I just knew that was going to be a way for his team to just break. I don't know what was happening with his players. I don't know how well or how not effective they were being. I don't know if he had been on a winning streak or losing streak. I couldn't tell you. All I can tell you is the way my players were playing, and I've told you this a million times. After that loss, they're just going to start sliding. Those sliders drop, and that's exactly what happened in that last game. Anyway, so that was the first half of our gameplay. We ended up selling a bunch of other stuff in our club. Just because I was kind of halfway there with that Marquinhos. He was going to fund Christian Nkunku, but I had a bunch of guys that were just kind of hanging around. I at this stage in FIFA, I usually like kind of build eFigs teams, like just because I have enough kind of untradeable players. I have a little bit of hodgepodginess here and there, and every once in a while I'll get sucked into like buying players from like Bundesliga to fill in a squad or Serie A. So I got rid of a bunch of those guys to make another really dominant main team. So I'm going to let those other teams, those hodgepodgey other teams, just kind of build up, and I'm going to really, really focus on my main team, which I did by picking up Christian Nkunku and Lucas Paqueta. So that way, as much as I love Ferenc Puskas, he's not really a true midfielder. He's an attacker. So he was really good at scoring goals. He's really good at dribbling, but his passing and his kind of awareness as a winger is not really there. He's not good defensively. So Lucas Paqueta, I'm really excited because he's super well-rounded. He's got all the attacking stats that have been pumped up, so he'll be a really good attacker, but at the same time, he can also come back and help on defense, which Ferenc Puskas didn't offer. So we picked up those guys, we built a second team, and we picked up Virgil van Dijk, who's going to go in there, and you guys will see what that team will look like. But these were the SBCs from yesterday, so we did 5 of them. Picked up Bernardo Silva as the only guy from the main leagues. All the other ones were just kind of irrelevant guys. De Ketelaere, I think it was a Belgian player from the Belgian league that a lot of people were interested in. I don't really have any interest in him. Maybe I'll try bringing him on as a super sub, but realistically, it's probably going to be SBC fodder. Swift, I think, was one of the most common ones. I think when I saw one of those tweets that show the best and the worst players that you could possibly get, and he was one of the worst, so no shock there. And then we pick up Zimmerman, which I'm actually okay with because it's the third time we've packed him, but both of the first 2 were tradable. So thankfully, I can trade that one. Unfortunately, now I've got the one that I have to play a couple games to get his morale up because he defaults to 80, so I get rid of the good version that I've already put in all the time and effort into, and I have to get this fresh version. And then the final card we get is the EFL one, which is Mitrovic. This guy was super highly sought after at first. I know people were really keen on him because Fulham was so dominant this year. He also set like a record, I think, for EFL goals scored during the course of the year. Cool card to have, but like, look, I can't link him with anybody. So I'm probably not going to end up using him for anything. I think he's just going to be a 94 rated fodder card. Then we go back into the gameplay. So that was our 5 guaranteed team of the seasons, but they could be from anyone. There was 3 more today that came out, which you guys will see in a minute. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably already know what I got. But yeah, some really interesting SBCs have come out in the last little bit where they're just kind of giving out cards, giving out team of the season cards, because I think Shapeshifter is going to be the next SBC. And that one will be interesting, but team of the season for me is one of the real peaks of the year. So I really want to make sure that we're maximizing the players that are in packs right now because I'm less interested in shapeshifters. We ended up going up against this guy. This was maybe the sweatiest game we had played all this whole run. Now I know we lost, but this guy was a better opponent than the guy we lost to, which again was telling me a lot about the way the game's coded and, you know, scripting and DDA and all that stuff. This guy, we took our team offline. We got them back in a very usable state. This guy was just a really good opponent. If I went into this game with my players, anything less than fully 99 morale, they would have lost this game because this guy was a really good defender. He didn't offer a whole lot going forward, but I also have like really jacked up my defense. My defense has been really good because they're all team of the season players now. And I just got lucky with the goal. He defended almost everything. It was really an exciting game, but a boring game at the same time. Not really much for the neutral watcher or the neutral viewer to watch, I guess, unless you like really back and forth tight battles. But there wasn't really a whole lot of scoring opportunities. I don't think he had a shot on goal the entire game, not that I can even remember, but he was really good defensively and read a lot of my attacks, and it was just going back and forth, and we got lucky by his keeper making a mistake. So that can be the difference, right? You have a keeper, let's say, that was getting morale, you take a shot on him and he lets the ball in, that can be the difference. He could have lost that game because of just him taking his team into a game with less than usable players. And then this last game that we played, well, this is the second last game we played, but this was, as soon as I saw this team, I knew that this was going to be a win. And I don't mean to be rude to my opponent, unless this guy was like a pro, but based on that team that he was taking into qualifying, I didn't think this was going to be that hard. And it wasn't, but my players were getting nerfed massively. So this is one of the ones that I'm really interested in understanding the way the game's coded. Very similar to the way my players were playing in the game couple games ago that I was talking about where we ended up losing 5-3. The players in this were just doing dumb stuff. My opponent's players, you can tell, like, look at these shots that were going in. My opponent's players weren't playing well, but I knew that my players were getting nerfed, right? So they were when I would take a fake shot, they wouldn't accelerate. They were getting displaced really easy. But as soon as he would come downfield, my defenders would just lock in and steal the ball. It was really weird the way the DDA is working. Basically, it felt like my attack was getting nerfed, but all my defenders were still playing fine. I don't know what causes that. If that's kind of more classic handicap conspiracy, which is just like, I came up against a really weak team and his players just got nerfed. I don't understand, or not, sorry, his players, my players got nerfed, but more from an attacking standpoint. They couldn't attack. As soon as you gave a pass, they would all come in and they would bunch. They would do what I call narrowing, where they all kind of jam into the middle, so it doesn't give you a whole lot of space. It's very hard to spread the field. They were hiding, they were just kind of standing around, but when he'd make a pass, I would try to, do a skill move to evade his defender and then shoot into space, and they would just take very narrow skill moves. So if you do a fake shot, instead of it taking it wide, so you're actually beating a player, it'll do the fake shot kind of in towards the player, so he would tackle my players. It was just really bizarre stuff that's going on. But again, I knew that we were going to be able to beat this guy. I just didn't want to have to resort to like tactics like ultra attacking. But I knew that if we went ultra attacking, his team would just fall apart. We didn't even have to get to that point. We literally just scored those 2 goals. But again, because my players were taking really crazy heavy touches, his keeper should have really just came out and smothered it, because he was using such a low-rated keeper, all I had to do was just shoot, and it would just like bumble past his keeper. It was like his keeper would just fall over. But I think that was just an inexperienced player that we just came up against, and he just got frustrated taking that team in. Probably had taken a couple losses, which is why his keeper was making those idiotic movements, and we ended up just scoring 2 goals, and then he just rage quit. The last game we just gave away. We had a bronze team. We just gave it away, but I left it in there as proof so you guys know that I'm not a dick all the time. Sometimes during FUT Champs I go, no, I'm not going to give you guys any wins. But during these like qualifiers, people are just trying to get into FUT Champs. I have no problem doing it. I also, if the guy's okay, like if he's not being an idiot, like I'll just give the game away. But sometimes when I go into these, and you can tell the guy's got like a super jacked up team and he's just rushing me right off the bat, I'll just kick it out and I'll just go, no, you don't deserve it for being a moron. But that's just me. That's just my personal thing. I don't mind giving away the odd win, but most of the time these guys are idiots and they'll just dump the ball back and then they'll kick it out of bounds. So I just go, why should I give away wins? We had about 100k. I had a Diaby that I ended up picking up just because with like our squad battle stuff, we ended up getting about 100k from just like a couple players that we packed here and there. And I sold off a bunch of random golds and we had about 100k. I used Diaby, did the Bundesliga objective. That was one of the weekly objectives, and then I ended up selling him and picking up Koulibaly. So he's a perfect example of a guy that we just got as like a filler to just put in our Serie A team, because there wasn't really any upgrades I could do for my main team at 100k. And then these are the eFigs guaranteed team of the season SBC. So this was done this morning. I already had Bernardo Silva. We packed him yesterday, as you guys saw in this video earlier. And then the first one that we did, we ended up packing Bernardo Silva again. So this is the third time we packed Bernardo Silva. We dumped him again back into the SBC. We ended up packing Bernardo Silva for a fourth time. So I don't know what was going on. I went on Twitter and I was like very confused by this, but every single person seemed to claim that like they were just getting 3 Premier League players. I'm guessing the weight was just totally screwed up. Another EA error with these SBCs that they release. They only do 1 release a day. I don't know why they have so many errors. It's just incompetent from them. I don't like to jump on them and like get mad at them because I understand that there's mistakes that can be made, but like I think there's just something wrong with these. I was following like a couple live streams that said that they were taking these guys out of, or the pack came down and they reworked the pack weight. I'm hoping that they reimburse us because look, we got Alexander Arnold in our third, and that's the third, not only Premier League player, but it's the third duplicate we've got. So I've packed Bernardo Silva 4 times, and I've packed Trent Alexander-Arnold. We even packed him earlier tradable, so I think I packed him 3 or 4 times too. So anyway, that's going to be the end of the video, guys. Hopefully in the next video, apologies, siren's going by, but that's going to be the end of the video, guys. Hopefully in the next one, we'll have some free packs that you guys will see for our update because EA really deserve to reimburse us for those. But that is going to be the end of it. Until next time, guys, take care. Peace.